Nossa próxima participação vai se dividir entre São Paulo e a cidade de Fremont, na Califórnia. É uma entrevista muito especial. Ele tem como objetivo criar produtos inovadores que forneçam uma experiência do cliente multicanal, rápida, divertida e envolvente. É um líder estratégico em produtos e tecnologia de alto desempenho, com um histórico comprovado de conquistas no lançamento de novos serviços inovadores ao consumidor, e-commerce, varejo, CRM, fidelidade. Ele é vice-presidente de gerenciamento de produto do Sam's Club e do Walmart Labs, Vinod Suresh. Quem vai entrevistar? Ele é sócio da Itu Partners, consultoria de orientação estratégica para empresas de crescimento rápido em ciclos de tempo. Passou por empresas como Netshoes, onde foi responsável por todas as áreas de tecnologia, mobile, inovação, e pela TOTUS, além de ter sido por meio da gestão de negócios e relacionamento com investidores. Ele é o primeiro conselheiro do E-commerce Brasil, começou junto comigo lá em 2015, 2016, lidera a área aí de tecnologia e, nos últimos tempos, vem falando sobre SaaS. Ele é o Rodrigo Nassi. Bom dia, Nassi.
Bom dia, Vivi. Hello, Vinod. How are you?
Hey, I'm fantastic. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Absolutely. I'm excited.
We're really excited to have you with us here at E-commerce Brasil. Vinod, the idea here is to talk about product management and mainly taking your experience on working with product management, with innovation and technology on big retailers. Okay, so the idea is to talk about that and going straight through it. I really like to see your vision about innovation, because innovation is not only about high-tech investments, but also, or actually mainly, about people and process. And what were or still are the main challenges that you see on retail companies migrating from a project mindset to a product mindset, mainly big companies? How do you see this transformation on companies and in areas like product management that you work on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head, right? I think technology and investment are all kind of enablers. Something core which truly drives disruption and growth are people, process, and the culture, right? I think the culture is going to be at the center of this triangle, right? I mean, where you could other enablers come in, and it kind of drives and spurs and works as a catalyst. So I think that's absolutely important, and I think the companies which have truly done really well and have come out of problems and pandemics, and who have basically turned these into opportunities, right? And they have come out as winners on top of that. So just to kind of dig a little deeper, if I can, I'm going to share some slides that I have in terms of what are the key, how do you truly look at it from a product mindset standpoint, right? Because I think what happens here is there are two schools of thought. One is, as you can see on the slide, one is the IT mindset, which is the more historical, traditional point of view, and then you have the product mindset. So looking through this, I think and I'll go through this very quickly. On the IT mindset side, the IT and the technology functions exist as a way to serve the business. The requirements are basically based on opinions of leaders, functional heads, right? Prioritization is done primarily based on first come, first serve, instead of it being data driven, right? There are a lot of these happen typically in silos because they are essentially serving their businesses, and the more slivers and silos of business we have, there are more IT people who are basically trying to serve as a peripheral to each of these functions. And the team primarily is focused on shipping projects, right? Basically delivering and launching something new, right? And then once that they've launched something new, they just quickly move on to the next big shiny thing, right? So if you look at the product mindset, it basically flips the entire model on its head. It's a very different model. The product mindset states that we exist to serve the needs of the customer, not the business, right? Because what happens is most of the product roadmap starts with voice of customer. There's also voice of business, in terms of from a product metric standpoint, but the primary guiding force for this is essentially customer problem. Data-driven requirements. So basically, it's not opinion. It's not your opinion. It's not my opinion. It's not the CEO's opinion. It's about what do we learn from the customer, and the best way, best proxy to really going and talking to each customer is understanding the data that you have, right? Whether in the context of e-commerce, like where are people falling off, where is the bounce rate, right, where the conversion is happening higher, what kind of content is truly driving engagement, right, what kind of pricing strategy is truly driving conversion. So, and the data tells us a lot of this story in a very specific way. And if you have the right instrumentation and analytics to derive those insights, it becomes very easy to go through that flow. Then the third one is prioritization is truly tied to customer metric, whether it's NPS as a net promoter score, whether it's removing friction and driving better experience, right? Understanding and making the experience more personalized through personalization. So a lot of those themes get into the mix, basically to make the entire shopping in the context of e-commerce. But if it's any workflow, making it easier for the customer to go from point A to point B in the best possible way with the right set of hooks. In terms of product mindset, it's not the silos; it's mostly functional teams. The reason being, we are trying to serve the customer, and the customer looks at the company in one holistic way. They don't look at it as e-commerce, or they're shopping on the mobile, or they're going to the retail store. They look at it as one brand, right? Like, what is my engagement? What is my relationship with this particular brand? So given that you're solving a customer problem, it is not possible to solve it in a silo, right? You could solve it just in the mobile app, or you could solve it only on the website. But if you don't solve it on the store, like, they're not going to, you're not truly solving customer problems. So most of product mindset will need cross-functional teams and shared goals, which is going to be very, very critical. And then the team is truly focused on driving results rather than just shipping, right? Shipping is just the beginning of the journey. There is a big component of it, which is optimization. Once you ship a particular product, or once you launch a product, you learn from the conversion, from the analytics, and improve the experience. See where are people dropping off, remove those friction points, make it easier, make it faster, make it better. And then you iterate through this till you the hell out of your the product, right? So that's the if that makes sense. I think that is like the core difference between a legacy IT mindset to a product driven mindset. I think you're on mute.
Sorry for that. Interesting you're saying that, because most of the times on big companies, even in smaller companies, the project mindset or the IT mindset, they do the delivery, and their metrics for them is number of deliveries that they did, no SLA that they have, or the sustain. They did the knowledge transfer for another team, and the another team gonna do that. So it's interesting when you say about process and people, that you are working on teams. There are people from the business side, people from tech, people from product, organized on a single team, and their process, the key process indicator, the KPIs that they have, they are business KPIs. They are not technical KPIs, right? So engagement, NPS, cost of acquisition, or whatever. So this change of how you measure people and how you measure success, it's more integrated to the business, right?
Correct. Yeah. I mean, all of these are customer metrics, and there will be a leading business metric to the customer metric, because NPS is a lagging indicator, right? Because if you create a really good experience, it will take you 6 months for you to see the NPS score go up, right? But while you do that, you can start looking at conversion and some of the business metric, which will be a leading indicator towards that core customer metric. So it's almost like a two-step process. The business indicator gives you immediate gratification, but the customer metric follows
Perfect.
the result of that. So I always say this: what is best for customers is often good for business, right? Because they both are very, very highly correlated.
And you touched two important things also, that which is one is the customer centricity goes beyond the channel view that usually we have on retail companies. So as you said, sometimes IT are a internal service provider for e-commerce, for physical stores, for different channels. When you put the customer on the center of things, and you are working really omni-channel, you have to have this approach of putting everybody together and work as a product. And the other thing that you mentioned, and really interesting for us to hear a little bit more about is the product life cycle, because different from IT, when you launch the product is just the beginning, because you're going to start measuring what's happening. You're going to start proving hypotheses that you had before, and if you are working on an agile type of methodology, you probably did something smaller, a feature or something smaller to test with the customer, right? So a little bit about how to work together. How do you plan that, or how do you work together with the other teams that maybe are not under your management? And as you said, on product, you are starting something. When you launch, you started something. So how do you manage those teams?
Yeah, absolutely. I have a few more slides to talk through that. So we always start, as I said, with a customer problem, right? I think the art of collecting voice of customer is very, very important, right? You need to have a very specific, precise goal. It's almost like running statistics, right? If you have a vague goal, you will end up with a vague model. For whether it's your machine learning or statistics or any of those, I think it is very important to have a very precise hypothesis, and that's where we start from. But the hypothesis needs to relate to a bigger picture, right? Capture the bigger picture. And it's important to involve your agents, and to your point, cross collaboration, whether it's the associates in the stores, whether it's your associates in the call center, right? Everyone who's interacting with the customer, like whether it's marketing, public relation, corporate communication, everyone who's interacting with the customer needs to be part of the process, because they all have a point of view, and that needs to be factored in. We need to close the loop, and we need to be honest. I think being honest is very, very critical. Sometimes it's easy for us to fool ourselves and say that, hey, my product is doing great, I'm doing a 300% growth, everything is great. Once you shut off your ears, the customers will shut their eyes and ears and everything else, right?
Or on my department, I do this better, and this is the way you should be doing.
Exactly. So I think the way we run this is a process what I've built and what I've been running at Sam's Club, and I'll be happy to share more about Sam's Club, in terms of how some of the achievements that we've been able to do in the retail side later. But I think, as we said, I think we always start with the customer need, and then we align on joint priorities, right, and measurement. And that happens between technology, business, operations, legal. We bring in everyone together, and we align on some common problems customer problems that we truly want to solve. Once we've aligned, I think then we go into agile and rapid execution. So let me elaborate that, right? So you always start with the obsession of customer needs, and then you go into clarity of purpose. Like, what is this cross-functional team? What is the problem that you're looking to solve? Are you looking to make checkout easier? Are you looking to make discovery easier? Are you looking to create a better personalized experience? Are you trying to get more people into your, whether retail or e-commerce site? So I think clarity of purpose is important. And then scientific rigor and the hypothesis formation becomes extremely critical. Once you know that, then you define success. For example, if our current time that it takes to check out, or the current checkout rate, or the current effectiveness of personalization, you have a metric and you say that, hey, I want to go from here to here. Like I want to drive my conversion from 40% to 80%, right? So we define a very clear metric. And we may not know how to get there because that's why we let the team figure it out. But we at least create a very clear North Star and very clear ownership, right? What is the role of technology? What is the role of business? What is the role of operations? What is the role of product is very, very critical. We call it 4 in a box. Every problem has 4 people into the box, and there might be more people, but primarily there is a business owner, there is a product owner, there is a technology owner, and there is a design or a UX person, right? Apart from this, there could be legal team, there could be analytics team. They'll all also be part of the extended team. Now, the way we work is, what we call as product acceleration is the same thing. We start with the customer need. We start with the data. So basically, let's really, really simple. Product acceleration is a meeting that I run every week on Friday morning, 9 a.m. It's a meeting with 20 people. Every single cross-functional team, whether it's legal, operations, whoever is part of the product, they're all represented and they all have to attend the meeting. What we do is we go back and look at what was shipped before, what did we launch before, and how is it performing, right? What is the goal and how are we performing against that goal? So that talks about product health. The second piece that we talk about is the product roadmap. What are the things which are coming ahead? What are we launching when? What are the milestones? And if there are any blockers, we assign very clear owners to each of the blocker and say that, hey, this is a legal sign off, the legal person takes ownership. If this is an operational obstacle, the ops person takes owner of it, right? If it's a product trade-off between competing priorities between two, the product owner takes ownership. But basically there is very clear ownership in terms of for each of the blocker, and that person takes it and goes and resolves. Basically the idea is no problem should go for more than 6 days. So between this Friday and next Friday, that problem should be resolved, whichever was identified. That's how you iterate in a fast pace. And then, so everyone has the seat at the table. We are all looking to drive a very clear KPI, and we are all in it together, right? I think the ownership on the leadership team from the cross-functional team is to make sure that we are clearing the path for the team to keep marching. Like we don't want them to even halt for a single day. And then we are doing this in an iterative form. So I just made it really, really simple. It's about putting a process together of running a meeting. Once we've aligned on the goal, we are looking at the goal every single week, measuring it, how we are doing, and what is coming up next.
Perfect. It's really important to have this ritual, right? Creating this recurrency on the ritual and putting everybody together in this ritual. If you do this over and over, you create culture, right? So you create the way of doing business of the teams that are together and becomes natural, right?
Correct. And no one will think about this is my problem only I need to solve, because they know that they cannot solve it in a silo. They have to come to the table. And if we have differences, it's fine. We can agree to disagree and move forward, or we sit down, and if you have enough data to support each, we'll be able to align on, how do we want to move forward. The other important thing that we do apart from it, the other ritual, which is like almost like a Bible for us, is what we call as product reviews and storytelling. So basically the product manager, takes a particular problem or a hypothesis. They will dwell on the problem and do all possible analysis on the problem using data, using customer behavior analysis, user testing, lean testing, design thinking, all of those approaches. And all of this, like we will very clearly quantify the problem, even before we write the first line of code. So the whole philosophy of product review is that we should not lose even a single day of technical bandwidth, right? Because we don't want to give a requirement, the engineer has started coding, and then we say, hey, stop. This is the thing. We don't want to do that, because that just demotivates people. And most of the time, at least here in the Bay Area and the Silicon Valley, like engineering bandwidth is the most expensive, and we want to protect that, right? And before we give a very clear priority, we want to make sure that we are very clear on the problem, we are very clear on the measurement, we are clear and fully aligned in terms of we want to go solve this, and we have some high level concepts. So at this stage, we have the four in a box, as I said, business, product, engineer, technology lead, and design lead work together to create some, to dwell on the problem, but they also have some proposal and recommendation of how to solve it. But it's not about, we have not done all the detailed design yet, right? So once we've aligned with the leadership and get a alignment and buy-in that this is the right problem and we are going to solve it, and once the team understands what is the problem we are solving, then you give it away to team, so that for every small decision they don't have to come and ask the leader, right? Because they understand the problem that is being solved and they can make the judgment call themselves. So empowering the team to make certain decisions that they can report at the later time, but they're not waiting on the leadership to respond. Like, they can keep moving because they understand the larger metric or the larger problem and the goal and the KPI against
Perfect. It. And these last 5 minutes, I really like to go a little bit more on tech. And if you can tell us what Sam's Club and Walmart are doing on technology, because giving better access to technology now, today we have through SaaS providers, open source infrastructure as a service. AI has become the go tech for everything, so everything has to have AI on it. I'd like to see some examples of what you guys are doing on Sam's Club and Walmart, and how do you differentiate yourself, and what's the big difference there?
So, before I even go into some of the things, like today, Sam's Club is considered like the most innovative retailer, at least in US, right? Because of the kind of things we have done. I will say this innovation for me, it could be one of the three ways, right? One is technology innovation. The second one is process innovation. And the third one is just purely speed, right? Just doing something fast also makes it innovation, right? Because you get a first mover advantage. So as you can see, I think you would see a bunch of different, amalgamation of various different things. For example, partnership here is more of a process innovation, right? I mean, we are solving the last mile delivery through partnership, right? We are doing, we closed about 10 to 12 Sam's Club like 2 years back and converted them into distribution so that we can enable faster shipping of the orders that you are placing in e-commerce. That's again is a process innovation. Technology innovation is this thing what we are calling as the Walmart's testing store in Dallas. So we call this as Sam's Club Now. There's also a YouTube video that I would recommend all of you to go and see, where which talks about we have truly revolutionized the future of retail in a way where how the retail is going to look like 5-10 years down the line, right? That is all technology innovation, and everything that we spoke about from a product acceleration standpoint is just driving speed, right? Because the same blocker is not going on for more than 6 days, which means that we are enabling, though we are sitting as part of this one of the biggest organizations in the world, we are still able to kind of run much faster, and you see this from Forbes as well. It says Walmart is smart enough to let Sam's Club follow its own innovation path. So it's getting recognized across from our customers, from press, and from the ecosystem overall.
Great. I think that's the time that we have. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the presentation and for sharing with us all this knowledge. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here, and you guys have a safe virtual conference.
Thank you. Vivi, volto para você a palavra. Desejo a todos aí uma ótima conversa ao longo do dia. Obrigado.
Obrigada, Nassi. Obrigada, Vinod.